So far, we basically dropped the files just in, and then the JIPipe handled as usual. We work directly on the files, but this is not realistic and very rare, actually, that you do it this way. It's also super unflexible, and JIPipe can actually do way more thanks to its path processing abilities. For example, you have some more complex hierarchies. Like, okay, you have a directory, and then you have a subfolder with control, and then TIFFs in here. And then the other subfolder encodes another condition. And JIPipe provides you the tools to really handle those. Even here, like when you have duplicate names in the directories, absolutely fine. You can handle this. And JIPipe has for this so-called path processing nodes. So manipulating paths. Paths are just text. They are just addresses to files and folders. They are not the files themselves. You can do many things with paths. For example, you can extract the file name. This is what this annotation node does. It receives a path to a file and it just grabs the name. Or you can tell it, okay, please go to the parent directory of a file or a folder. List its children. If you have given a folder, you can list out what is in there. Then you can also filter things. And JIPipe can all do this for you. All these operations JIPipe has. And it works on path data that JIPipe got maybe from a user directory, maybe you dropped it in, and this way it can be very, very flexible. So let's now switch to another pipeline. So this one, our kidney pipeline that we made, and we are now working with some hierarchies. And then we have here in another directory, in the 06 kidney and exports, there's a directory called raw. So I dropped this raw in. This drop in instead of the kidney.tiff. We are not going to use that one. We will now do automated path processing. We're going to auto-explore the contents of that. So if I look at it, there's raw, then we have a subdirectory that encodes the condition. It has some multiple files in there, but also a CSV file. So we should exclude that. And then also another in NTN, we have a few files in there, and again CSV files. So we should do some advanced filtering, automated exploring, so we get the files that we need. We are starting here with a directory raw. If you run it, it just points to the directory. So what we're going to do, what is inside there? There are subdirectories that encode the condition. And there's a node for exploring this. It's called list subfolders. List subfolders, we are connecting that one. And then this instructs JIPipe basically goes through each directory that it receives in this node, and then it just explores the child paths and then returns a new path. So let's run it, and then you see that we return two folders. It's control and NTN. And it basically converts over the input raw into its children. And this way you can systematically explore your directories. So we have the subfolders listed, and we really want to remember these. This control and NTN is important information, especially because we have a duplicate file name in there. As a control_1 is in both. So otherwise this would get mixed up. We really don't need that. And we can just apply this annotate by directory name also here. It says there file or directory name. But this time we're going to change the annotation name by the parameters. I will write this down also in the box, don't worry. We go to the parameters, and then we change it to something else than dataset. For example, I call it experiment. And then you see it will do exactly that. It adds this information as annotation, and because JIPipe propagates annotation through the pipeline, this will now stay there. And then now we need to figure out how to get our TIFF files. There is a node for that conveniently does it. It's called list files, because then we are receiving directories and instructing JIPipe, please list out the files inside there and return those as data that we can work with. So list files. And there's already a pre-made convenient setting called here list only TIFF files. We add this one. And then when you investigate it, it has something interesting here in this keep file. It's basically an automated filter. in there. And this will pick out and really only the TIFF files by checking the extension. And this way, you ignore the CSV file that also floats in there and don't try to load it as image, which then will cause some weird error. So these files, if we run it, you see control1.tiff and others, the 15.1, they have still the experiment annotation from earlier. So let's finish it up by having the annotate the file with name again, but then we keep the original. We just leave it as dataset. Basically, that's it. We explored everything. We have all the files. We have the full hierarchy explored by JIPipe as files that can be loaded into images. And we have still everything remembered. I can just connect this up to my import image. Will run absolutely automatically now. It has all the information. This can distinguish automatically by these two information that it has. It's both are important annotations, so it can keep apart these two control1 images because they have a different experiment annotation. And then we can just go down and run it. It will absolutely work fine. And you see it going through because it now has to actually work on more images. It has to work on 7 images. And then it processes them all completely automatically. We had to do something in the beginning. We just have to ensure that JIPipe has all the information, and then it does everything automatically now for us. I want to talk about something that is very, very important and very powerful in JIPipe. These things here, they are so-called expression parameters, and they're very, very powerful. You will see them everywhere in JIPipe. So these are expression parameters, and you can easily identify them because they say in some form expression there, and they usually have an edit button. Expression parameters, like as mentioned, they're everywhere. You use them for filtering, you use them for generating data, you are using for customizing parameters, adapting them to things. And then some of them, they have also some additional information. For example, here's one that goes through voice, filters them. And there it says, okay, it's an expression that it is applied per ROI. When you click this edit button, you will get an editor that is a bit designed like this MS Excel formula builder, where you see everything that is available, all the functions, all variables. In the filters path parameter, there's also this edit button. So you can find here everything that it knows. For example, it goes through each file. You can receive in each expression the full path, the file name, the parent. You edit it in this white field, and then it checks also if it's valid. And then this is the one that also works. This one would then check if the name, the file name, contains .tiff. Then it would filter out everything that doesn't match this. Although, what if we have something like metadata.tiff.csv? Not uncommon that this happens. So you find also other alternatives for that. You can check if the name actually ends with .tiff or this glob filter, which is like a more general application of that. And now I can finally explain to you how to export actually the result. JIPipe has two options in general to get things out: an automated way and manual way. The automated way is accessible via this global run button at the top right. If you don't have any compartments, it will offer you only this whole project customized one, where you can basically set up a storage to hard drive with the automated JIPipe exporter. It's very uncommon that you use these, but it's good to know that it is there. It will run the whole pipeline, save all the outputs to the hard drive into this directory that you choose here. But it's really JIPipe's own format that contains all the metadata, contains thumbnails and other things. And then it will open it in a dedicated viewer. The format looks like that, where you have like a hierarchy again, and then it contains like a copy of the project, a log file, and then organizes the outputs by compartment, per node, per output. And then in a standardized format stores like the annotations that are attached and then the actual data. But this is usually not how you will interact with JIPipe. What you're going to do is you use exporter nodes that are there for really exporting things out. So it looks like that still. So let's get the information out. So we have at least our two visualizations here. I would love to have them out. And also maybe the measurements too. to have out for each experiment and condition and as files that we can read in later on. You might have noticed there is a category, it's called export here. It's here on the left side. And this basically contains every exporter. These are all standardized exporters that use JIPipe's own way to exporting things. But then you have specific ones, like exporting regions of interest from ImageJ, export bioformats, export OpenESA. You can even make 3D scenes in JIPipe and export them so you can use them in Blender and so on. And we will use those because this is the most likely one that you want to use. So let's export maybe some visualization. For that, I am going to use the export image node. So be careful to choose the correct one. There's an image, an IMP image, just a normal export image without any other letters added to that. And maybe let's export the output of the visualization for the tissue. So these ones here. So when you add this in, it absolutely runs. It will export them actually, but to somewhere with an automatically generated name. That's not what we want. We want them somewhere in the specific. And you can change this in the parameters. And there you will see I have the expression that generates the path where this thing will end. The file name extension will be added automatically by JIPipe, but basically what it says here, it puts it into a data directory that is automatically generated with an automatically generated file name. We don't want that. To come up with such an expression can be a bit annoying, especially when you are not familiar with them. So there is a tool where you can get started. You still have to write it out in some way, but you can get started. It will do some automation for you. For this, you click here the select, and then it will open like a file save dialog, but it will not actually save anything. It will just tell JIPipe a general location where to save it. For example, I want it saved in kidney exports, and then I call it results lecture. You can put it anywhere, any folder. It will pick this up. And then give it some file name. Here, some file name. Doesn't matter really in the end. And then, depending on where you save it, JIPipe will ask you now. Here, the selected path that you put in, it could be made more general, that it works on other computers. So, for example, I saved it somewhere close to this project directory. So in this hierarchy, as I explained to you earlier, and then it offers you to write the expression for you in a way that it saves it always like relatively to that. I can hit yes, and then you see it generated some automatically generated path for me where it starts with the project directory. And what happens here is it tells JIPipe, okay, start with the project directory and then go into some subdirectory of it and there save it, please, under a name, some file name currently, because it is the file name that I saved out. So now if I run this, when I go here into my directory, you see that it currently saves it out as some file name. This is not what we want because it just overwrites everything. So how can we do this? So we now have to edit something. So these expressions, when you click here edit and the one before it is cached, it will help you a bit more, have access to the annotations. This is why it's also so important to annotate, because there you can export it based on your metadata. So instead of some file name, I remove that. I can make a new file name. And I say it's experiment with a hash, don't forget it, and then combine experiment and then hash dataset. That's it. When the exporter then goes through each individual image that it should export, it would run this expression here basically that says it, okay, please start at the project directory, go into the subdirectories. JIPipe will make them for you if they are not existing, and then make me a file name based on the experiment and dataset by combining them with an underscore. And this way you have full flexibility. And you can imagine if you add more metadata that may be important to it, you can then have full control how it will be saved, but still it's automatically running. So let's update cache now. And then I'm monitoring my folder, and you see it slowly writes here these PNGs out. So, and then let's save them out. I have all my visualizations that are now here. Now we have a template. We can do the same thing to the other one. Okay, and maybe here we have the tissue. We should have make a good name for it. So let's do this. Maybe put an underscore under it, like underscore tissue or something. So you can come up with any name you want. So I'm doing the same with the glomeruli. So we have them also out. Glomeruli. And then I want glomeruli and table measurements also out. Export table. So there's also export table as Excel file. Then it would make like a multi-page Excel file, but export table itself will make just a normal Excel file if you tell it so. Export my fine particles measurements. Then in the settings, you can say here the file format. You can change it to Excel or leave it as CSV. It doesn't matter really now. And then I'm copying it over. So being lazy. And then the same thing for the glomeruli. And then just call it glomeruli. So if I run this one, and then I can also, while it's running in queue, another run. And you see in my directory, everything is popping up slowly. I have my Excel files. And it saves out also the other glomeruli. And you can, of course, have any kind of subdirectory hierarchy that it can generate. I have everything out. And this is a basic way how you can export things. Just follow the export nodes. There are also references, and of course, everything is uploaded in the directory if you need some help and guidance with these. This way, we can also have these project directories as well later on, because we can absolutely use these inside these expressions. So they are available as variables that you could just use instead of project directories. You can have a global results directory and then use this one to save it out there. So and that's why it's useful to have the outputs. When I make an output here, as shown before, I can absolutely connect my files here. Then you can just run it all at once, so you don't have to run like 4 nodes. And you can run them from here, and you can run them from here too. So this is useful.